It is time to press snooze on the news and turn to the only opinions that count. Hey everyone, I'm Steve Noviello. It is time to get for real. My panel tonight is full of fresh yet familiar faces. First up, she cannot stand the sound of the crunchy veggies I eat during the commercials on Good Day. Please welcome Shannon Murray. Nice to see you.
No snacks today.
No snacks today. Next, I won a sports Emmy and he still has not invited me to lunch. From Fox 4 Sports, it's Mike Ducey.
Steve, thanks for having me. That open makes our building look pretty good there.
Magic of TV, friend. Yes. She is one of Oprah's favorite things, and I cannot say I disagree. My friend in the fourth chair tonight is North Texas rock star Dr. Cheryl Action Jackson.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
It's good to be seen.
We're going to hear a lot more from you soon. You've been very busy. But first, I want to get right to it with a closer look at tonight's first topic because it is time to take two. From fictional classics like The Catcher in the Rye to the real-life gay penguins who just wanted to have a baby, books are disappearing from library shelves across America, and if you think you are hearing about more challenges to more books more often, it is not just your imagination.
Throughout history, book banning has been driven by various motivations, including political, religious, and moral concerns. While some argue that it is necessary to protect certain values and beliefs, others view it as a violation of freedom of expression and an impediment to intellectual freedom. In some countries, government authorities have the power to ban books through laws or regulations. Schools may have policies in place that restrict or ban certain books. Parents or community organizations may advocate for the removal of books from school libraries or curriculum. Religious or ideological groups may call for banning books that contradict or challenge their beliefs. In some cases, publishers voluntarily choose not to release books due to concerns about controversy. Book banning is a complex and controversial issue, and we should talk about it. So let's do that.
Ask my 11th grade AP Lit teacher, and she will tell you there was a time when I wished they would make us stop reading books in school. But there is a fine line between stop reading and stop us from reading. According to the American Library Association, in 2022, there were more than 1,200 attempted bans of more than 2,500 different books. That is nearly double the record which had been set the previous year. And listen to the scary stuff that we are afraid of. Communities of color, the history of racism, and at the very top of the list, that sneaky rainbow mafia. Yes, it seems the gays may be good for keeping you out of unflattering light, but literature which features them should be kept in the dark. And the classics, as Whoopi Goldberg once said to Demi Moore on the set of Ghost, Molly, you in danger, girl. To Kill a Mockingbird, The Catcher in the Rye, The Grapes of Wrath, The Color Purple, 1984, Slaughterhouse-5, and Lord of the Flies all top the list of frequently banned classics. So let me ask, panel, do we feel like we're hearing about this more and more? Shannon, I'll start with you.
Definitely. I mean, in the news, we are covering this frequently. It seems like every week I'm at a different school board meeting, hearing from those parents and the school board trustees who are debating this issue. So it comes up constantly.
Why do you think that is, Mike?
Well, first of all, let me say as a sports guy, I don't read many books. But I think it does come down to motivation. And what is the motivation of the people behind these efforts? And I think it's a difficult topic to figure out from that standpoint because everybody's motivation can be different. And there's a balance between trusting the educators and allowing and encouraging the parents to get involved. And I don't think there's any perfect mix there. Every school's different, every community's different.
So Cheryl, I want to challenge you. The one thing that I think that kind of gets lost in this conversation sometimes is that the folks who want these books gone really truly believe in the courage of their convictions, right? I mean, they think that books about whatever are detrimental. I mean, can you put yourself in that mind space? Are there topics where you would say, you know what, maybe a book on whatever might be a good idea to get out of the library?
Oh yeah, I can. I have 7 grandkids, so it concerns me depending on what they're talking about, right? But to each his own. And if you don't have any kids in the game, that's what I would want to see is how many people of these 1,200 actually have kids that are actually going to school, or do they just have free time on their hand, they don't have anything else to do?
Okay, funny you should ask.
Okay.
Take, for example, Bruce Friedman. Clay County, Florida has a list of 3,600 books that he thinks need to be banned banned
Come
from
on,
schools.
Bruce.
He has succeeded in getting more than 100 of them ripped from library shelves, does not have children in the schools. He also freely admits he has not read most of the books that he is challenging. Or take a listen to this. The mother who recently read from the book Push at a school board meeting to have it removed from libraries and curriculums. She is a member of Moms for Liberty, but she doesn't actually have children.
She's not
so
actually
she's
a
not
mom.
actually a mom. So should people who are not parents, who don't have kids,
Be quiet. Sit down. Sit down somewhere and be quiet.
Well, first of all, you better read the book.
Bruce, what is he doing? I mean, what? 3,600 books, and he hasn't even read them.
Right.
But he wants them banned. Come on, and we're wasting our time with Bruce.
And what's the agenda?
Thank you.
And that's it. What is the motivation? And again, I think you should be careful when it's somebody coming in totally from the outside as to what the political motivation might be. The motivation that I can't even imagine. Again, I think it comes down to a combination of the educators, whom should in many cases be trusted. I think they're the professionals here, and obviously parent involvement.
Yeah, the educators, the people in the schools, the parents, they know what's appropriate for their children at that grade level, and they should be making those decisions.
You had mentioned, we talked about kind of covering school board meetings. You know, now I've got young kids. I've been to a school board meeting or two. I am amazed. I mean, these things pack the house these days. It wasn't always
and
like
they go
that.
late.
Yes, they go late, and this has kind of become the new breeding ground for grassroots movements to try and do things like that. And what I think is most shocking, to your point, Cheryl, is that some of these people really don't have a dog in the fight.
Right. I mean, when I was in high school, I had to read To Kill a Mockingbird. I think that's the one with the N-word in it. Seems like every time the N-word came up, that's when the teacher told me to read. I'm like, well, I got to read the N-word, right? And I remember going home and telling my mama, she keep making read the N-word. I don't want to read the N-word. That's when I would be passionate enough to go to a school board meeting and say, I don't want this book here, because it made me, and I was only black girl. No, it was one other black girl sitting next to me. It was only two of us in the room. The other black girl, she read, I said, I'm not reading that. I'm not reading it again. Send me to the principal's office. I'm passionate about that. Bruce need to go sit down somewhere. But I had a right to tell my mama, go up to the school board meeting, get this book taken out, because it doesn't make us feel right in the school system.
Do you think that we are destined to repeat the mistakes of history if we kind of erase them from the educational curriculum of kids?
Oh, I think in many cases. I mean, obviously that's the best way for kids to learn in a lot of cases, is obviously to read about history. And literature allows kids to experience things in an abstract way without actually having to live through those things. And when you take that element of education away, I think it's pretty dangerous. And one more point: what's the best way to get a kid interested in a book? Ban it.
Right. So, if anything, by making these books forbidden, perhaps they are now more popular than ever.
Well, and if you're talking about trusting the educators and the teachers who are in the schools, they're supposed to be the ones who are fostering those conversations around those books to give the full context and talk about the history and maybe how things have evolved and changed over time, and we trust them in most cases.
All right, coming up, we have plenty more to talk about, including this. Hello, Dolly. Why the country icon's midriff is making people mad. But first, you are cordially invited to the wedding of the century with a price tag to match. And remember, we want to see you on the panel. You can send your text video comments to our topics tonight or any night to 214-818-9114. Why just have a wedding when you can have a wow? Why get hitched in Vegas Chapel when you can spend enough money to buy a whole Vegas casino? And forget Elvis impersonators. You know what's really cool? An authentic Adam Levine. Take a look at this. It is the wedding of car dealership heiress Madeline Brockway. The 26-year-old just had a 5-day destination wedding that made jaws drop and invoices explode. The spend? $59 million. And wait till you hear what that buys you. Private jets for everybody to a separate 4-day Marie Antoinette-themed bachelorette party at a Utah hotel, where rooms go for north of $3,000 a night. More private jets to Paris, where the bridal party got to attend a private design-your-own handbag at Chanel. Lunch at the Eiffel Tower, a dress reveal at Dior, rehearsal dinner at the Opera House, accommodation at Versailles, an estimated more than $1 million in florals, a drone show. They even flew out Maroon 5 to play the first dance. The whole thing clearly went viral with some mixed reactions. So first I want to start with the event. Obnoxiously opulent or let them eat cake? Cheryl?
Baby, let them eat their cake. But I just want to be her friend. That's all I'm asking.
I need new friends.
No, man,
I
I'm
need
in
new
the
friends.
wrong
Give me the
club,
private
you know?
jet.
Please,
It's
the
the
Chanel
handbag.
bag.
Chanel,
It's the
right?
Chanel bag, boo. You can't get mad at her. The only thing I'm mad at, Steve, is because years ago I worked at a car dealership and I made $7.50 an hour. That's where the money went to. She got the money. I'm sitting up there answering the phone. But just let me be her friend. Don't hate on sister girl.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, this, again, a wedding, I'm assuming, is something you dream of. We just went
Sure.
through your wedding a year ago.
Yeah.
You didn't invite me with Chanel bags? No.
Listen, I didn't have the $59 million budget, okay? We had to draw the line, but it does get out of control fast. Everything's expensive, and you're on social media, everyone's talking about their wedding, you're seeing all the trends, and you know, my algorithm changed to all wedding stuff in my feeds, so I was inspired everywhere to just do more, and you know you're gonna be sharing it online, and you know, it's like if she's got the budget.
Come on.
So that's actually the second half of this story here. So, of course, this went viral, but now the bride has scraped any trace of her wedding from social media
Let's
because
talk
guess
about it.
what? When you spend more than the GDP of the Polynesian island of Tuvalu on your wedding, people start to take notice and they start digging for more information on the Fort Worth-based couple. It turns out the 29-year-old groom, Jacob Legrone, has been charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault against a public servant, a felony which carries a max sentence of life in prison after firing at 3 police officers in March. Now, he's been offered a plea deal of 25 years in prison. I think this is so interesting because it's like, look at us, look at that. Whoa, no.
Delete.
And that's the double-edged sword of social media, right? The fact that so many of these opulent weddings go so over the top, it's totally driven by social media. As you said, it goes viral, and that's the goal. But then, oh, by the way, then people start looking into the background, and you have something like this come up.
Well, and this bride started her social media accounts with this bachelorette party, with the wedding, kind of launching into this social media fame, and then it all sort of backfired. And it's one thing to spend $59 million on your wedding, but then to spend $59 million on a wedding to someone who's facing life in prison.
Well, and to spend the $59 million
perspective.
and then you don't get the clicks and the likes and whatnot, and for whether or not that's important to people, you can't help but think it was probably important to this couple, right?
Oh my God, I feel so bad for her.
What?
I mean, I do, because her husband's facing 25 years.
She knew who she was marrying.
Well, maybe she didn't. We just assuming. Now that it came out and people start doing they research, and now they know about Jacob. She didn't know about Jacob. She couldn't have known about Jacob, but she wouldn't have put it on social media. She knew we was going to look her up.
Would it have been enough for if Chris was, if you're now husband, would you say, why don't we push pause until after the sentencing?
Let's pump the brakes. Let's see how these court proceedings play out.
Right.
Then we'll talk.
If
And I
she knew.
guarantee you, my parents would have said, hold on. We're not having this wedding. We're not flying everybody to Paris.
Right.
We're not doing the whole thing. Let's get this sorted out first.
Yeah.
See how things go.
Mike, did you and Ruth spend less than $59 million on your wedding? I'm assuming.
Just a-
Adjusting for inflation.
Just a little bit, and that was 40 years ago, I might add. And we had a small church wedding, as humble Midwesterners tend to have. Our daughter got married about 1.5 years ago, and she got married on our family farm up in the Midwest, and it was beautiful. That's where she wanted to get married. It was a small wedding. But it's amazing how much we still managed to spend on that. I thought I was going to get away cheap on
No,
it,
it
but I
gets out
think
of control.
that's impossible in the
Quick.
wedding game. But it stopped a little bit short of what we're talking about.
The other
Yes.
criticism that she
Crazy.
got here was that not only that they paid Maroon 5 $2 million to come and sing, but that they chose Adam Levine, who I believe was embroiled in some sort of
Scandal.
infidelity scandal.
Yes.
Why is it you would choose this guy to sing the first song?
Maybe she did know then. Maybe she did. I don't know.
Everything was curated with this wedding. I mean,
Yeah.
she had the videographers, she had the content created, put out online.
Sad.
It was all strategic,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Except that
And to
one
think.
detail. When you give something for people to be curious about, they get curious.
They get
And
curious.
these days, all
this-
it takes is a keyboard.
And that criminal element wasn't hard to find.
No,
No.
not at all. All right.
Viral has more than one meaning.
Coming up next, she is 77 and stunning, but not everybody is on board with Dolly Parton's peekaboo look at the Cowboys halftime show. And we love when you join the show. Your video voicemail is coming up next. Let me be clear. Dolly Rebecca Parton is a national treasure and should be protected at all costs. As far as I'm concerned, the only thing shocking about that is that not everybody seems to share the same opinion. The 77-year-old recently made headlines at the Cowboys Thanksgiving Day halftime show, not only for her music, which as far as I'm concerned is crafted directly from the voice of God and the tears of a unicorn, but for her outfit. Some felt that the Cowboys cheerleaders' halftop exposing the sparkling midriff of the 9 to 5 singer should have been 86th. One critic writing, quote, "Nobody wants to see a granny dressed like that act your age." I'm sorry, ma'am, I think you mean Grammy, as in 11 of them. If I looked as good as Dolly Parton in booty shorts and a half top, this show would have to be on even later at night because I would never take them off. All right. First
Let me unsee that for just a second.
Mike, you're glad you came. Oh, good. We've got video of her for anybody who didn't see, right? So we've got video of Dolly Parton. I mean, come on. Come on. What do you think?
Let her live.
Let her live, right?
Baby.
She looks great.
She looks better, dare I say, than some of the 19-year-olds
She looks
out there.
fantastic. I attended the game, and the reaction to Dolly at halftime was positive in every way. I think they had a few glitches technically with the show.
Stage.
That was the only problem.
Yes. Yeah.
She wasn't up on top of the star on the stage as she was intended to be. But in terms of the look, I didn't really hear that much negative reaction, to be honest. And I mean, you could have a larger discussion about whether the Cowboys cheerleaders' uniforms are appropriate for anyone of any age.
Yeah.
As a dad, I say that.
Yeah.
But no, in terms of Dolly at 77, pulling off that look, I think she was great.
Dolly is an icon.
She is an icon, and kind of that's her thing, right? I mean, if you listen to her backstory, she always talks about being dressed over the top, how as a young girl growing up, very poor, she styled herself after the town floozy, essentially, and she said, I want to be just like that.
Well,
She
and her
faced
famous
criticism forever.
line is, "It costs a lot to look this cheap."
Yeah. I have never felt closer to you, Mike Ducey, than I do in this moment. But I mean, listen, Judge Judy, remember when she turned 70? She had the infamous photo shoot on the yacht with the white bikini, and people came after her. But would they come after a man in the same? I feel like when it comes to men, we celebrate them like, look at the silver fox.
Right. They're not going to come after me, and they just come after us. And if Dolly has the courage to show her titties like that, let her show it. Let her. I'm 55. I don't have the courage. If someone from the Cowboys said, we're going to put you in that uniform, I said, no, you're not.
To show her what? What did you say?
Show it all.
I mean, she was showing it all, and she did it, right? And so, I mean, you're going to have critics. If she would have came out the other way and covered up, people would say, that's because she's 77. She didn't want to look that way, right? So, I mean, when I hit 77, if I'm looking like Dolly, pardon me, but I'm coming out. That's all I got to say.
You know what, at the end of the day, who doesn't care about any of the criticism? Dolly.
Yep.
She does not care.
She just did a Howard Stern interview that I listened to, and she really talks a lot about that. About listen, she doesn't really care what you think, and that's really been one of the secrets to her, to her success. And frankly, of all people to come after, I mean, this is a woman who, for as famous as she is, I mean, probably the cleanest record in music, right? I mean, never a controversy, always doing wonderful things for people. And to come after Dolly Parton like that, come on.
But do you think the people in marketing probably knew they'd probably come after Dolly looking like she was looking in the cowboy cheerleader outfit? So that's just more talk, right?
They knew it was provocative.
Yeah,
exactly.
they knew what they was doing too.
Discussion.
We talking about it.
In terms of the double standard, what would the male equivalent be? I mean, I don't understand. I'm trying to think, okay, how does Mick Jagger dress at a Rolling Stones
for sure,
concert? But I suppose maybe there would be a little bit of a double standard there. I'm not sure that that's totally, applicable in this case.
I think the headline that you would see with male celebrities is, look at these men over 70 who still look great.
Yeah.
And it's like, candid photos of them on the beach celebrating them, as opposed to a woman in that same position would be, ooh, guess who we saw on the beach? She's 77 and look how she's
Everything
dressed.
was a mess, a hot mess, and she shouldn't have been in what she had on. I mean, if you put yourself out there, you're going to get people that criticizes you. But if you're thick enough and have thick enough skin, who cares?
Well,
Dolly's 77. She did that thing.
She got the skin and the chops,
She
right?
did.
Coming up next, you are next. In fact, we've got your messages, and that means your video voice voicemails are ready to roll. Welcome back. It is time for you to get for real. Now, last week we talked about a new take on the DARE program, one which moves from scaring kids about the dangers of drugs to teaching them harm reduction for when they inevitably do experiment. Stephanie Robinson in Cedar Hill says she's got an additional idea as well.
A better solution would be to have drug addicts in active recovery speak at the schools. I think they need to bring their before, their during, their after pictures. I think they need to speak to the students regarding their friends that have lost their lives during their time in drug addiction. I think they need to speak to them of the struggles of living on the street. I think that they need to speak to them regarding their time in prison and the difficulties there.
So some of the things that they're talking about in this harm reduction program are teaching kids how to recognize the difference between somebody who is high and someone who's ODing, teaching kids about Narcan, teaching kids it's okay to call 911, that no one's going to get in trouble. I have to say, as a kid of the 80s, and with young boys myself, it makes me nervous to take that approach, but at the same time, I understand the reality of the situation is, listen, it's not, in the 80s they taught us, a stranger's gonna come up to you on the street and offer you heroin. Now it's like, oh, I took my buddy's Xanax and oops, it had fentanyl in it, now I'm dead. What do you think?
Oh man, I think Stephanie's spot on. I have some friends whose son was murdered because of a drug deal gone bad. And I just feel like if people had said something about it ahead of time, he could still be here today. So I think the educational part is great, but I don't think it's okay to just say, do it if you're going to do it.
Right.
And I'm against that.
Yeah, I mean, the first messaging is, hey, don't, followed by,
If you're in this situation,
right, but if you do,
here's how you handle it.
Yeah.
No, I think it's okay to have a multi-layered approach here, as you said. Yeah, ideally, stay away from it altogether. But if you're in a certain situation, it's okay to know these things. And to your point, Stephanie's idea is I think, right on point. Absolutely get some people in front of these kids, folks who have been through the trauma of addiction and have now,
See the
through different
face.
types of programs, figured out a way to continue living their lives in a better, cleaner way.
Well, and they also say, listen, that's always the key to successful recovery, right? The idea that two strangers can get together and say, I've been where you are, let me tell you what happened to me, let me kind of walk you through that, as opposed to a police officer coming to school and saying to you, don't do drugs, and then you go in with your buddies in the parking lot and laughing at him afterward. And,
Again, more than one approach can work. There's nothing saying that you can't do both, but I like where Stephanie's going with her idea.
Me too.
If you're speaking to a room full of kids, every child is different, is going to have different friends, different experiences. So you've got to have that comprehensive approach so that you reach more people.
I couldn't agree more. All right, if you've got something to say, you can sound off online, or better off, show us who you are when you share your thoughts via video message by texting them to 469-818-9114. That is our time for tonight. We are back tomorrow with The Price of Happiness and why one generation is bucking the trend. Remember, whether you're just starting your day or just wrapping it up, opinions are like air fresheners. Yours is kind of nice, but everyone else's stinks. We'll see you next time.